Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So in today's episode, there will be construction sounds in the background. In today's episode, we'll be forging a hot cut chisel. So in one of my first blacksmithing videos, I forged this one, and it served me well. I've come to kind of learn it's pretty much a sharpened railroad spike on a stick. So I'm just looking for something a little more robust. Plus the handle's cracking on this one. I didn't really know how to haft handles onto tools all that well. So instead of railroad spikes, today we'll be using the wonderful plow edge I've made a couple of knives out of. I got a lot more material to work with, and it's also a hardenable tool steel, so I've made a couple of knives in the past, so I know it'll work great for this. Only thing that sucks about it is it takes forever to cut anything off of it with my little 4-inch angle grinder, but I guess that just means I gotta get to it. So thanks for coming along, and yeah, I'm gonna start cutting this thing before the sun goes down. Alright, so that took a while, but we got our billet ready to go. I cut it a little longer than the thickness, so it's more of a rectangle than a square. And my plan with that is to upset it by squishing the long side until it's actually a square. And that should just make it a little more beefier. And once it is a square, I'll taper the striking end just a little bit. Then I'll flatten the working end into a wedge and see how straight I can get it. So yeah, and then we'll take it from there. So as you can see, this side is getting more square than this side. This side's very rectangular still. And it's also getting thicker on the side I've forged down. So I'm just going to continue this all the way down, and it'll be like a nice thick piece of square stock. So I've rounded the corners off and tapered the striking end. So I'm going to knock in the corners of the working end and then move over to the horn to start drawing it out and turning it into a wedge. So doing this is kind of like a bigger version of putting a bevel on a knife. You just keep the piece at an angle and angle your hammer. There's a million videos on YouTube if I don't explain it that well, but you just got to keep in mind that the material is being worked by both the hammer and the anvil. So what happens on one side is kind of happening on the other. So you want both your little piece of metal and your big piece of metal to be working for you, and keep it rotating, and you should, see it stay in line with the center of the piece. Yeah, if there was ever a reason to switch to propane, that would be it. Alrighty guys, so the forging's complete and I'm pretty darn happy with how it's looking so far. So now I'm going to take an angle grinder to cut a straight edge on the working end of the chisel. And after that we'll take it to the grinder to put on an edge and round off the striking end. Alrighty, so I got the forge heating up, getting ready to heat treat. We got a nice sharp working end and a dull striking end. I put on a primary bevel and there's also a secondary bevel. And on the striking end I just did a bunch of smoothing and you know, you don't want any sharp edges on the striking end. You're basically beating it with a hammer and it's going to start to malform over time. And I guess, you know, over time you end up work hardening it and it can become brittle and send chips flying. The interweb's full of horror stories. I'm not exactly sure how dangerous it is. But nonetheless, I do like metal staying on the outside of my body. So, lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but over time, if you see it starting to mushroom, you just grind that off and you should be good to go. Alrighty, so my plan for heat treat, I rolled the edge by dropping it. Okay, so plan for heat treat. I'm gonna heat up just the working edge to just above magnetic and quench the whole thing in oil. I'm gonna give it a little time to soak to make sure the whole thing gets to a hot temperature, at least hot enough to make the oil stick to the whole thing so that I'm simultaneously hardening the edge and making the final finish, at the same time. And then I'll probably just do a really simple tempering technique with like a torch. All right, so the forge is almost up to temp. Let's get heat treating. Here we go. Slidey, slidey stuff. So where this is a beater, you know, forging tool, I'm just gonna give it the old torch tempering job. It's not the best way to do it, but it'll do the trick. So I'm just gonna heat up this end until I see that brown color you look for when it comes out of the oven starting to creep up on the cutting edge. Alrighty, let's give it a test. Okay, come on, that's fine. So this thing turned out pretty darn good, and it's a heck of an upgrade from my last chisel. So in that last sequence, you saw me put notches in these 5 railroad spike knife stands. So I made 5 and only managed to hit my thumb once, so I think I'm gonna be able to get used to not having it on a stick. Much as I love this guy, I think it's time for it to head out to pasture. But this thing's just about better in every objective way. The cutting edge is the same exact shape it was before I made these guys, so it's working quite well so far. Alrighty everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you're new, make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 500, that's really cool. So thank you for the continued support. If you'd like to purchase a forged item, you can check out the link below right here-ish. Alrighty, that's all I got for today. Thanks again for watching, and don't hit your mushroom Dover tools.